Hello, people. This is our first live session on YouTube, and we are here with Miguel. Hello, Miguel. How are you doing?
Hello, Diego. Hello, everyone that is watching, no matter what time it is right now.
Yeah, this is our first episode recording on YouTube. It's a live session actually, and I'm trying to get used with the tool that we have here. But I'm so glad to have you, Miguel, as our first guest. For those who don't know, I'm Diego. I'm your host of Diverse Lingua podcast, and today we are recording this episode during a live session on YouTube. This is something new for the third season of Diverse Lingua, and today we are going to talk about immigration and how it was the process for an American guy who came to Brazil from the US. Sorry about the dogs. We are glad um, we, to have with us Miguel Ariza from the United States, who has recently immigrated to Brazil. Miguel is a polyglot and a language lover. Hello, Miguel. Welcome to the show. How are you? How are you today?
Uh, I'm good, Diego. Thank you for having me tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. And I hope that we can have a good conversation today. And I'm a little bit nervous, but we try to see. Oh my God. Now it's working. So Miguel, I'm doing well, and I'd like to know a little bit more about you. Can you introduce yourself for our listeners?
Yes. So my name is Miguel. I was born in New York City in the borough of the Bronx.
Mhm.
My family is from Mexico. They are from the state of Puebla in the central part of the country. Um, I started studying languages since I was 23 years old, and I self studied and I traveled to language conferences because I liked it. And at the moment, I speak four languages. I speak
Oh my God.
Spanish, English, French, and I'd say my Portuguese is almost pretty good because of the amount of times I use it here in Brazil.
Mhm.
And I'm currently studying Slovene or Slovenian, as it's also known, and Polish and Slovak.
Mhm. Oh, so many languages. I hope I hope I can speak a lot of languages as you. I only speak Portuguese, of course, because I'm a Brazilian. I speak also English, French, and a little bit of Spanish.
That's excellent.
But Miguel, why did you choose Brazil to live? Because I know that you are living now in Brazil. Is that right?
Yes, I live. Well, it's one of the satellite cities in Brasilia, or the federal district or Distrito Federal, as it's
Yeah.
known here. And it's one of the middle class satellite cities called Aguas Claras. So,
Awesome.
like to just talk a little bit about this area. There's a lot of tall buildings. These are condominiums, co-ops. A lot of middle class people who are families live here. Like many people have children,
Mm-hmm.
And it's also called like a second headquarters of many bankers here, as my wife called it.
Oh my.
Okay, so I moved here almost a year ago, and my 1 year anniversary will be on October 21st, because this is when I came over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely say my wife was the reason that I came over, because
Okay.
well, my wife has always lived here in Brazil. She was born in Fortaleza and
Mm-hmm.
she was raised in Salvador. So sometimes, like she would say that she considers herself a Baiana. And because she was doing very good with the bank job, and she's also a psychologist, and she
Mm-hmm.
is raising a teenage son, I was the one that made the decision to move to Brazil to be with her, to get married,
Mm-hmm.
and then to support her here, raising her son and spending time together in the country.
I
And
see.
it's really really funny because I loved traveling and I traveled to Europe often. So I would, if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I would have ever visited South America. I don't know. And like I was thinking about living in Central Europe, like maybe the Czech Republic or
Mm-hmm.
Slovakia, but yes, life sometimes has other plans.
Yeah, and there is definitely something interesting to notice that a guy from the United States came here to live here in Brazil, and I think that our listeners have a lot of questions to ask you. If you guys are watching us right now, you can ask us any question if you wish. And I'd like to, before we go to other questions, um, can you Miguel describe how was the process to move to Brazil from the United States? Do you think that it was difficult?
It was definitely not easy. I really needed to do the research. I think the first thing was that I had to make up my mind about it, was she coming or was I going? And the
Mm-hmm.
decision was definitely that I was going. And once I made up my mind that I was going to be the one that was going to travel to be with her, I had some patience, a lot of luck, and I will say a lot of luck because in late July of 2020, the Brazilian government decided to allow international visitors to fly to Brazil because, as we all know, since March of 2020, everyone shut down. Every country shut down international travel, and until this day, there are some countries that are still not allowing international visitors.
Mm-hmm.
So after Brazil lifted the international travel ban, uh, then I also had to propose to her
Mm-hmm.
because being in this long distance relationship, especially in an uncertain time like a pandemic, was really hurting the two of us. So I felt like I wanted to marry her. And once she said yes, then we started to do the research on how she could marry a foreigner in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
On my side, I had to start gathering important documents. I needed my birth certificate from New York City. I needed an affidavit or a statement of truth saying that I never got married in the past, so that I could confirm my single status. And then I needed to get them through a process called the apostille. So to
Mm-hmm.
explain what apostille is that it's a treaty that was signed in The Hague in the Netherlands, where different countries can recognize international documents using the
Uh,
apostille stamp.
and how can you do that in the United States? Where do you need to go for having a apostille like that?
Well, at least in New York State, and I think this should be a similar process in many states. You need to get the document,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to make sure an official is has the signature on it. Someone
Mm-hmm.
who in your state is someone very important. How can I describe this as
Yeah,
well?
because here in Brazil we have cartórios,
Yeah, like
The name for
notaries.
that, yeah, the name for that specific place here in Brazil is cartórios, where you go there to certificate some documents and to have the apostille if you wish to move to another country.
Hmm. So you're right. In New York, I need to have someone who works for a notary.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they have to sign the document, or if it's already signed by someone who already has their signature in the records of the state, I can take it to what we call a county clerk in our city, and they have to
Mm-hmm.
certify that the person who signed it is part of the League of Notaries that who
Mm-hmm.
are official. And then after that step, I needed to go to the New York State Department of Apostilles.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to show them the document, fill out a small form, and pay a small fee. And I gave them the documents, and then they returned them to me in person with the apostille stamp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little bureaucratic process.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I had that curiosity because here in Brazil we have cartórios, those places that sometimes I think most of the times they are so bureaucratic. Yeah,
Mhm.
and yeah, but do you think that you have some difficulties to immigrate even though you were you were married with a Brazilian girl? Because sometimes I think that some countries, like for example, I have a friend who lives in Colombia right now. He's
Mhm.
from Brazil, and he's facing some problems to get credited in Colombia and some other things because he's a foreigner. And it seems that in Colombia they are not used to the process of receiving people from other countries. I don't know. Uh,
Mm.
what do you think about the process to move from the United States to Brazil? Do you think that it was bureaucratic or it was okay?
Nah, it was definitely bureaucratic. Once I received the documents, I sent photos of them to my girlfriend so that she was able to send them to sworn public translators, and they
Mm-hmm.
were able to translate the documents before I even arrived in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few days when I arrived, we started the process to get married in a notary here.
Mm-hmm.
And once they were able to see my official documents along with the translated documents from the public translators, and they saw that they matched, they
Mm-hmm.
accepted my documents.
Oh, okay.
So we got married in Brazil, in Brasilia, in December.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while already.
Hmm.
Yeah. And how about the difficulties to get credit or something like this? Did you have some issues related to that?
I thought that it was going to be more difficult. Like after we got married, I started feeling that I was running out of time to become legal in the country
Mm-hmm.
because as an American, I only had a 90-day tourist visa.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to submit another document along with my marriage certificate to the federal police here in
Mm-hmm.
Brazil. I needed to get an appointment. I had to submit those documents, my ID, payment,
Mm-hmm.
and luckily they accepted all the documents on the same day, and they I was approved for permanent residency.
Oh. Oh, that's nice because some other countries they you need to wait a lot to have a permanent residence. Maybe because you were married with a Brazilian. Maybe because of that.
Yes, and like we were discussing this a few days before the appointment that we were probably going to be interviewed like in some movies where uh
Oh,
like in some
interesting.
movies.
Yeah, interesting. Why do you think that? Why do you think that?
Well, there was a movie. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a movie about a French man that moved to the United States, and
Hmm.
he wanted to be legal. So there was a Chinese American family that allowed their daughter to marry the French man,
Hmm.
so that they could be married. So then he was able to start the process of being a legal resident. But they
Hmm.
had to be interviewed by the immigration officer.
Ah, okay.
And the immigration officer had to visit their home. So they both had to design their house like if they lived together.
Okay. So do you think that you guys will be interviewed by some authorities or by some because I heard movies. Did I didn't I get correct
Hmm.
movies?
A movie. There were some movies like that example.
Ah, okay.
Maybe we thought that an official from the federal police could have visited our house, but we
Ah,
were
okay.
very lucky that I was approved on the same day.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think it could have been because of the pandemic, but I
Yeah, yeah.
may never know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, yeah, I think I didn't get the idea. You have said that you are going to be interviewed by movies, by some people from movies. I
Oh no, not at all. This was
okay.
a movie example.
Ah, okay, a movie example. Okay, okay, I see. So yeah, interesting. Interesting that it wasn't that difficult for someone who are married with a Brazilian.
Hmm.
I know that here, if a foreigner has a child here, the child has the nationality of Brazil, from Brazil. Um, I don't know about the America, about the United States, if it is the same thing. Because some countries, I have a friend who were living in Germany, and she said that in Germany is different. If you have a child there, your child could not be considered German, you know, because
It's,
it has other issues,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But Miguel, did you know anything about Brazil before arriving here?
Uh, Well, I did visit Brazil for New Year's in 2019, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I went to visit my wife when she was still my girlfriend, but that's when I was able to see Brazil before the pandemic, and I learned a lot about being there. But even before that,
Mm-hmm.
I knew very little about the country because in New York, we do have Brazilian neighborhoods uh,
Mm-hmm.
or in New Jersey, like in Newark. There's a big Brazilian community in that city.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did meet some Brazilians from local language exchange events. Like, for example, I had a good friend who was from Natal, and she went to these events to practice her English, and sometimes we hung out outside of these events. She took me to a big Brazilian festival that is held in New York every year called Brazil Day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the festival where Brazilians come, they celebrate their culture, and it's at the
Mm-hmm.
same time as Independence Day. So a lot of Brazilian artists came to New York to play at that festival, and big Brazilian networks came to report about it. Like, I think Global came a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when Brazil hosted the 2014 FIFA World Cup, and as a soccer fan, a football fan, I watched the tournament, and I was really thinking about visiting the country for the World Cup, but I wasn't able to make it happen. Like, I wanted
Oh.
to follow Mexico.
You were supporting Mexico?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I went to a match between Mexico, I think, and in the Netherlands.
It's the
And
round of 16.
yeah, and I watched the match with the Mexican supporters, and it was awesome because I feel like I was with Brazilians.
Hmm.
I feel close. I felt close to them when I was there. It was an interesting atmosphere, you know,
Uh,
and yeah, and also after the match, because I think that Mexico lost that match.
they did.
Yeah, I interacted with some people from the Netherlands, you know.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
but it was a good atmosphere there.
Do you remember when Mexico faced Brazil in Fortaleza when they played that match?
Yeah, I remember, but I wasn't in the stadium because I
Uh,
couldn't buy the ticket. It was so expensive.
wow.
Yeah.
What a game that was.
And it was difficult as well to get the ticket for the Brazil match because you needed to wait a lot on the website, and I couldn't get the ticket. But for the match between the Netherlands and Mexico, I could get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and and now that you are here in Brazil, uh, what do you like the most after you are here living? What are the things that you are so that you are so excited about, or food, some foods that you tasted? I don't know. What were the best things that you had here in Brazil?
Wow. I do like the weather here. I am
Hmm.
going to be honest about that because winters in New York were harsh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I love the food here. I
Hmm.
thought that there were some things about Brazilian food that were very similar to Mexican food. We
Yeah,
love
yeah.
fruits. We both eat a lot of meat, and there are some dishes that are even similar. For example, the Brazilian pamonhas are very similar to our tamales.
I will check that out because I've never heard about tamales. Because for me, when I was in the United States, I used to eat a lot burritos
Hmm.
because it remind me the Brazilian food, you know.
Yeah, and it was, I think, finding those similarities with the Brazilian things, Mexican things, like some aspects of the culture. It
Mhm.
helped me to adapt here more.
Rebecca is saying that it's a Colombian food as well.
Whoa, wow.
David Ciarlini. Hi, great interview. Congratulations. Please ask him what the main difficulties he encountered when he arrived in Brazil in a foreign.
Wow.
So, what do you have to say about that, Miguel?
Oh, that's a good question. As a foreigner, I think the main difference was not knowing people or locals here,
Mm-hmm.
because one thing that was different for me here compared to many other places I've traveled to was knowing local people and
Mm-hmm.
seeing them, and on top of that, the pandemic situation made it worse to socialize or to even try to socialize.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a long time to at least have chats with locals here.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife helped me out a bit, introducing me to her friends. They're really good people as well. Her coworkers. I even met her boss, who's a really really nice lady.
Oh, great. But can you cite three difficulties that you had that you didn't imagine, for example?
Wow. Three other difficulties. I guess I could just list other difficulties that I had that
Mm-hmm.
don't involve the pandemic. There was one change of lifestyle that I had to do because I used to be able to travel a lot, and in 2019, about a month or two before meeting my wife, I had a really cool trip to Central Europe, to Eastern Europe, the Balkan Peninsula,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't make trips like that anymore because now I'm a family man at home. So I'm with my wife, her teenage son. There's two dogs, and they were alone for a long time. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some growing pains, but we're getting along, and we've been a happy family since.
Okay.
And then another issue is not experiencing a lot of diversity like I did in New York. So it's a lot of people speaking the same language, and it was something that I had to also get used to because in
Mm-hmm.
New York, the big city that it is with many different people, you can take a subway ride two stations away, and you're in a different neighborhood. And the people look different. The signs are in a different language or in a different alphabet. And
Mm-hmm.
here, on the other hand, not a lot of people speak a different language other than Portuguese. And I understand, and there's a lot of issues behind
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Yeah.
the, it's more monolingual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how about the culture, the Brazilian culture? Are you used to the Brazilian culture already, or
It's
because
also,
actually the Brazilian culture is so diverse as well?
that is true. I think there's a lot of stories to tell, but one recent story that I had was when I went to visit the dentist here. So
Mm-hmm.
she was from the Northeast. I think she was from the state of Bahia.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me that people from those areas, they're really, really chatty. They enjoy meeting new people. And I did meet someone waiting at the reception who I had a really good conversation with. And on the other hand, there were people from the south, like Rio Grande do Sul, who are actually a little more cold. They have their own friend circles, and they don't meet other people as much. So there would be people who walk past you and they don't say hi. So this is the how different people in the country are.
Yeah, definitely. But you have experienced something like that while you are here?
Um, One experience I had recently was meeting a really nice lady from Minas Gerais.
Hmm.
It looks like that she was from a small town, and uh, a few days ago, when I just saw her after having exercises, she was having a party, and she was willing to have me at her party, and she introduced me to her family members, some friends. Uh, and one good icebreaker was that she told everyone that I was from New York, so everyone was interested in meeting the foreigner.
Yeah. And maybe some of them, I'd like to practice my English with you.
Yeah, there was actually only one person. Only one person because everyone else didn't speak English, and but they were. I was telling stories with them and talking to them about the different things about adapting to the country. And there were things like the way people are passionate about sports, like soccer.
Yeah.
One story that I could say is at the end of the Brasileirao that was delayed last year. So in February 2020, like when Flamengo became the champions,
Mhm.
people in my building started yelling, making a lot of noise, and
Yeah.
it felt similar like when I was watching the New York Yankees baseball team play.
Yeah. I think that I can feel the similarities. Yeah. Here, I think the biggest soccer team is Flamengo in Brazil. Even though I don't like Flamengo, I'm a Fortaleza supporter. I support Fortaleza, who is playing right now, which is playing right now. Yeah, and Miguel, I'd like to know, uh, is there something that you really miss from the United States?
Wow. I think that the first things that come to mind are my family and friends. My parents were really sad when I told them that I was moving to Brazil, and my mother was really, really sad.
Mhm.
They were expecting me to find a lady to marry in New York and to stay close to them, but they didn't think I would find someone who lives on the other side of the world. And I miss my polyglot friends as well that I had in New York. I visited them every weekend. Like we always hung out and we spoke in various different languages because we either went to language exchange meetings or we started organizing our own meetings
Mhm.
when we started to go outside in the summer of 2020. And the last thing was the diversity. Uh,
Mhm.
the, the diversity there, to be able to have Greek food or go to Bosnian restaurants or being able to buy my favorite Czech beer in the grocery store or taking folk dance lessons from Greek teachers or Bulgarian teachers, like going to Mexican restaurants with my family, hearing merengue or reggaeton music that was playing from a neighbor's apartment, especially when they were cleaning, or watching my family baseball team play on Sundays in the summer. And even when speaking English to people as well, because we do have our own New York City slang. Like for example, like we have our own little phrase when we see a friend across the street and we yell at them, "You're," and it's kind of like something we only do in New York. And like I did this with a friend in a language conference called the Montreal Langfest. And like when I saw him come down after a talk, and I saw him, I yelled it out to him, and we started yelling this out to each other, and everyone else just started staring at us, and they didn't realize that it was a New York thing.
Oh my god! Yeah, I think I remember some expressions from here, from Fortaleza, from Ceará, that we usually say to each other on the streets. Like for example, here in Fortaleza, we have "Via Cearense." Did you hear about that? Have you
Ah,
heard about that?
I think my brother-in-law's wife introduced me one when we went to visit them. She
Yeah,
told me something like a literal translation would be, "Are you raising fish in the beer?"
raising fish in the beer.
This means that you're letting your beer get warm because you're not drinking it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, but we have like Via Cearense. Have you heard about that? That people usually say, "Yay!"
Okay, that's the
Yeah,
stuff I don't know about yet.
when they are when something funny happens, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, we have. I think every part of the world have that specificities, you know. Yeah. Yeah, Davi is saying that the biggest Brazilian soccer team is Ceará. Ceará is the rival of Fortaleza. Oh my god. Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, I think right now I'm in a process because I'd like to live abroad, and one thing that I'm also a little bit I could not say afraid, but a little bit I don't know how to describe that, but when I think about being away from my family, sometimes it's a little bit hard. Yeah, I can notice what you are feeling right now. Yeah. Yeah, but you also have the opportunity to be in contact with other culture, to have your wife here and her family. Yeah, it, it's like a trade-off.
Yes,
Yeah.
this has been like the ultimate adventure for me so far.
Hmm.
It's an immersive experience to not just improve my Portuguese, that
Hmm.
I started to study more and practice it with people, but to learn a new culture this way.
Hmm. And Miguel, what would be the things that you don't miss at all about the United States?
Well, I think there's a few things like the many traffic jams that we had because there were some people that used their cars, and there would be traffic jams. If we used the subway, and we had various subway disruptions, they were terrible, and these things were capable of ruining your day. Someone would just have to turn on the ability to speak, and they'll say things like, "Ladies and gentlemen, because of a mechanical problem with a train at Grand Central 42nd Street, there are delays in Brooklyn bound 4 and 5 express service."
I feel like I'm in the New York City right now. Oh my god,
Um,
man. Yeah, once I heard something like that in the subways, but I couldn't get the message because it's a little bit noisy, you know. And
yeah,
for a
there's that.
foreigner, it's a little bit complicated to notice the message.
And then the last thing is like when I hear some crazy news stories that some Americans do, and particularly people from the state of Florida.
Oh my god.
And then the highlights usually start like a Florida man, and then you can fill in the blank about what they did, and it's just there's no words to describe that kind of stuff. And I
No.
just think to myself, I'm glad I don't live there anymore.
Oh my god, yeah. Emanuele is saying that is very good. I think that
Uh,
she's saying about the interview. Oh, thank you, Emanuele.
Kiss,
If-
kiss,
And
hugs.
and guys, if you have any questions, please let us know. You can ask us questions through the chat. And uh, and Miguel,
Yes.
I'd like to know if you how about your Portuguese? Can you speak Portuguese pretty well right now?
Um, at the moment, I speak two versions of Portuguese. Like I started studying European Portuguese from Portugal,
Mhm.
and then when I met my lovely wife Emanuele, who just sent the message,
Ah,
I
Emanuel,
s-
your wife, yeah.
I started to try to speak Brazilian Portuguese, and like since she speaks the Brazilian Portuguese from Bahia, like
Mhm,
that's where I go. That's where I get
mhm.
the my Brazilian Portuguese accent from. Maybe I learned like one or two things from her, but she's the guide from where I get everything about the language because obviously I'm with her all the time,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
uh, yeah. Então aí, por causa dela que me ajudou para praticar, eu podia falar também, porque quando eu comecei a falar português brasileiro, às vezes eu estava com falta de confiança. Então, ela me ajudou, queria que eu falasse com ela para praticar, e aí quando eu mudei com ela, é, tinha mais confiança e podia falar com outras pessoas. And one thing that also helped was during the first quarantine, my friends John and Jill started setting up language meetings on Zoom. And
Yeah.
Jonathan set up a Portuguese group that we were able to practice twice a week. And then I encouraged my wife to join us. And she was a little shy at first, but because it was a Portuguese meeting, she was able to let go a little easier. Like she met my friends and she got to learn about our little polyglot community.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I entered that group during the polyglot conference. No, polyglot conference. No, polyglot gathering. Yeah, online polyglot gathering because I I was supposed to go to Poland for the polyglot gathering, but there was a pandemic, and then we moved to the online meetings, and I could meet you online and other people. Now I've already met you face to face here in Fortaleza when you came here to the New Year's Eve, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, and it was a great opportunity to meet you because I could join to some of those meetings that you have said here, Jonathan's and Jill. And yeah, it was a pleasure to be with those guys, those people. Nowadays, I'm a little bit busy to join the meetings, but I hope I can do it in the future.
Wow. I was also supposed to go to Poland that year. So maybe there was a chance that could we have met in Poland anyway?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Mm.
So, people, if you are enjoying this talk with Miguel, you can subscribe to our channel, YouTube channel, Diversa Língua, or you can subscribe to our podcast in the platform that you are listening to this episode, because this episode will be available on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Spotify, and some other platforms, and also here on YouTube if you wish to see us face to face, in a video. And people, we are almost at the end of our talk with Miguel. If you have any questions, please let us know. And there is another question. Is there anything else that you still need to do in order to set your place in Brazil, Miguel?
Oof. Okay. First question. Do I really need to pick a football team, a soccer team to support here in Brazil?
I don't think so, man, because I have some friends that don't have a soccer team to support. So it's up to you.
Ooh,
For
okay.
example, my father, he doesn't support any soccer team. Even though for me, for example, when I was a child, I used to watch a lot of matches between Corinthians and Palmeiras. And back at that time, I felt that my father supported Corinthians. And I was a little bit uh, I felt that I was a supporter of Corinthians as well, but then afterwards I changed it to I decided to support São Paulo, and then a friend of mine said to me, "Oh, you must support a team from your city." And then I decided to support Fortaleza because my grandpa supports Fortaleza, and now right now I only support Fortaleza. I even if it is the Brazilian soccer team against Fortaleza, I will support Fortaleza. Besides the Brazilian soccer team. Yeah, but it's up to you, man. If you wish to support any team in soccer team, it's up to you.
Well, there's no pressure at least. And there's a few other things like there are some cultural things that I need to know. This first one is not so serious. Like when everyone goes to the pool and they use the small swimming trunks, the men at least. I still use the big American ones, and that's one quick way that everyone knows I'm a foreigner.
Can you repeat that, please? I didn't get.
When everyone goes to
When
the
you go
swimming
to the
pool,
swimming pool, yeah.
a lot of the locals use the really small swimming trunks, they're swimming
Okay.
shorts,
Mhm.
and I still use the big American ones.
Oh, yeah. I can see. Yeah, because here in Brazil we have a different culture about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
uh, there's another thing about trying to understand and differentiate Brazilian accents.
Ah.
Like so far, like I know the Recife accent, like the Sao Paulo one, the way they elongate words, like it almost reminds me of the Valley Girl California accent in the
Mhm.
U.S. And the Rio accent. I sometimes I hear a Rio accent and I'm thinking like, is this European Portuguese or Rio de
Yeah, yeah.
Janeiro?
Yeah, I think that because the royal family, the Portuguese royal family, came to Brazil in Rio. They arrived in Rio, for when they were quitting Portugal because of Napoleon, and then they arrived here in Rio, and maybe because of that, people speak more close to the European Portuguese. But yeah, here in Fortaleza, people speak a little bit different from the other parts of Brazil as well. And I can't say something like right now. Uh, Ei, menino rei. Ei, menino rei, vem cá, menino rei. Para de frescar, não fique frescando, não. So those are some slangs that you usually say here on the streets, and even when you know Portuguese, sometimes I think that for a foreigner it could be a little bit difficult to understand people on the streets. There is a TV show from here, from Ceará, called Nas Garras da Patrulha, that you can search on YouTube. It's a TV show with some. I don't know how can I say that in English, but ventriloquos.
Ventriloquist.
Yeah. It's a show with that, and then they used to say a lot of words from Ceará, from from Fortaleza, and once I had a friend from Peru, and I talked to her in Portuguese, of course, because she learned Portuguese. And then I told her, you must watch Nas Garras da Patrulha. And then she came after me. I tried to watch that, but I couldn't understand anything that people were saying because it is all the things that they say there are from the streets, people, what usually people say on the streets, and people we usually call Cearenses, people from here, Cearenses.
Ceareans, I could say.
Yeah, but we used to say Cearensidade. Cearensidade is when you say something, when you hear something from Ceará, that is from Ceará, Yeah, it's a little bit difficult, and people are laughing right now on the chat.
I know.
Yeah.
And then one last thing is not having that energy walking down the street fast like a New Yorker. There was someone who saw me walking fast, and he said, "Oh, this dude is in a rush. Why is he walking fast for?" And in my mind, I just thought, I'm a New Yorker. I'm just walking because this is the regular New York speed to walk the street.
Yeah. I think I when I walk a little bit quickly. So I'm a little bit similar with you, guy. So we are coming to the end of this episode, and at the end of our episodes, Miguel, we usually ask our guests for some cultural recommendations. It can be a movie, a book, a play, or anything related to culture. Do you have any recommendation?
I might have two quick ones. I think the first one comes from a man called Rick McGuire. So he has 3 Instagram accounts that show the world the greatness that is New York City. Mm-hmm. And he has these 3 accounts called Subway Creatures.
I was thinking about that when I was talking to you, and you have said something about the subway, and I thought, I think that I follow an Instagram account about that. And I think that I started to follow that Instagram account because of you, because I saw on your Instagram or in your stories something like that. It's really funny.
And he has other accounts called "What Is New York." So
Hmm.
this shows the general life in the city, and I think he started a new one called "What New York Eats." It's about food.
Hmm.
And then there's a podcast from a comedian and radio personality who influenced my life called Luis Jimenez. And he was to quickly tell about him. Born in Puerto Rico. He was also an immigrant who went to the United States, and like he loved working with the radio, and he was trying to be a comedian on the radio as well. And one thing that he taught me was that you shouldn't take life seriously. Make fun of yourself, like try to be funny, make people laugh, and this is how you enjoy life. And this is what he does. Uh, Creating his characters, being funny, twisting up words, doing wordplay. And nowadays, he has a podcast where he doesn't just grab like the news of the day, but he'll find extremely odd news that can be really funny, or it's we can say tragic funny, like the
Mm.
combination of tragic and funny. And this is just who he is.
What is the name of the podcast?
So it's called the Luis Jimenez podcast.
Ah, so guys, you must check that out.
It was he was one of the symbols of growing up Latino in New York in
Mhm.
the 1990s and 2000s.
Oh, great! I wish I will try to check that out, Miguel. It was those are recommendations that you mentioned that right now were amazing. So, Miguel, now it's a space for you to just talk a little bit about you. If you want to share your social media with people, it's the time, man.
Yes, I am on Facebook. I have my Facebook page and an Instagram account that are based on my WordPress blog called the Multilingual Bronx Site. So the Instagram handle is just Multilingual Bronx Site because it's very, very, very long. Uh,
Multilingual Bronx side.
mhm. So it's a language blog that I have been running for more than 4 years now. And here is where I write my many language and traveling adventures and some other things
It
that are
is that
related
one.
to languages. Hmm.
Multilingual Bronx side.
Yeah.
Is it
Uh,
correct?
yes. Yeah.
Oh.
And now I'm using it to write some things, or on the Instagram, like I could post stories about my immigrant life in Brazil.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I think that we will have some foreigners in our that will listen to our podcast that maybe they will have some curiosities about the perspectives of a foreigner in Brazil. You know, the what can you see our country as a foreigner? Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I make appearances in language conferences. So I'm volunteering in the 2021 Polyglot Conference Global that
Mhm.
starts in a few days, October 15th. And I will
Mhm.
be presenting at the 2021 Polyglot Conference that we have in Brazil.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I heard about it. I was in, I think I was in the live session that you were presented for for the people to the, that you will speak on the conference. Yeah,
With Juliano Martins.
yeah,
Shout out to him.
yeah, yeah. I'm a friend of Julian. Who to? Polyglot Conference and Polyglot.
Yes, Polyglotar will be the first weekend in November. And
Mhm.
Juliano did say he's organizing a live meetup in Fortaleza.
Yeah. We have a great community here because of the Polyglot Club, Fortaleza. If you come back to Fortaleza, please let us know because we have a great community. We have usually meetings on the Luisa Tavares Square every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 9 to 8 p.m. But usually people go to an acai shop after the meeting. So sometimes the meetings ends at 11 p.m., 12
Uh,
p.m. Yeah.
yeah,
And he will try to have, I think that it is already booked space. He booked a space for the conference for Polyglota, the presential part of Polyglota.
amazing. Making
Yeah.
history.
Yeah. So Miguel, it was a pleasure to have you in our episode, in our live session on YouTube, and I hope that if you guys are watching this content, if you like this content, please like us on YouTube, and if you are listening to our podcast, don't miss our episodes. You must follow our podcast in the platform that you are listening to this episode. So it was a pleasure, Miguel. I hope I can have you more here in the podcast, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me, Diego. It was a pleasure to be on the podcast with you. Thank you, everyone else, for joining us.
Bye bye, people.